On today's Andy and Ari on 3, we examine which of 4 fourth-year coaches will make a breakthrough this season. Could be multiple, could be none, but they're all under tremendous pressure. That would be Billy Napier at Florida, Brent Venables at Oklahoma, Lincoln Riley at USC, and Brian Kelly at LSU. Who's breaking through? Who's disappointing? We'll talk about that. We'll also have your last-minute best bets with Tyler Shoemaker, one of the great analysts at VSiN. Also, Dear Andy and Dear Ari, get you ready for this weekend's games with questions about Utah, with questions about Clemson. Guys, we're here. Lee Corso has his last show. We're going to guess which head he's putting on. And there are games today. You're going to listen to this show, watch this show, and then you're going to watch some games on Thursday night. God bless America. Let's start the show. Andy and Ari on 3 is sponsored by BetMGM. Sign up for BetMGM today. Use the bonus code CFB. That's college football, CFB, or Ari, A-R-I, and get up to $1,500 paid back in bonus bets if you don't win. If you haven't signed up yet, use the bonus code CFB or the bonus code Ari, and you'll get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. But that's not everything. Once you've already signed up, on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday of week 1, so August 28th through August 30th, they've got a no-sweat parlay boost token. So you go for the end zone without breaking a sweat. With a college football no-sweat parlay token, you will get your stake back in bonus bets if you don't win. Also, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday of week 1, there's another college football parlay boost token. And no matter where it is, there's nothing like getting on the game and leveling up your next parlay. So use the parlay boost token to boost your potential payout from a winning college football parlay. All available to you from BetMGM. And if you hadn't signed up yet, very easy. Download the app. Sign up, use the bonus code CFB as in college football, and get going. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus only. U.S. promotional offers are not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER in the U.S. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 in New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona. Call 1-800-327-5050 in Massachusetts. Call 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa or 1-800-981-0023 in Puerto Rico. First bet offer for new customers only, subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use the bonus code CFB and get your $1,500 first bet offer today. Welcome to Andy and Ari on 3. It is Thursday of week 1, which means there are games within a few hours. This show is dropping at 3 p.m. Eastern time on Thursday, which means we are only 2.5 hours away from the kickoff of USF and Boise State. There is also Nebraska, Cincinnati tonight. There is UCF and Jacksonville State. And of course, an incredibly big slate of games Friday and Saturday. Friday, Ari, YouTube TV viewers do not have to worry about whether you're going to get Auburn-Baylor because YouTube TV and Fox came to a deal. So they don't have to worry about it. It's going to be on your TV. And probably more important to everybody, Texas, Ohio State will appear on your devices as well.
I'm shocked they figured it out, Andy. Really, totally shocked.
You when the FCC chair was like, "Hey, why don't you guys figure this out?" I was like, I think they're figure this out.
What percentage of people have YouTube TV in general just to watch sports? Like half?
I would think that most of the people who subscribe to YouTube TV, like a more than half, do it to watch sports.
Half was conservative. I wouldn't have any live television if it weren't for sports. And I don't know if that's just my generation or the fact that I like sports a lot or the fact that I can watch all the things I want to watch on Netflix, YouTube, the regular YouTube. I mean, like they've got everything on that. I don't know. I'm happy they figured it out. I'm happy we don't have to scramble to figure out how to watch these games because the best thing about YouTube TV, really, Andy, to me, isn't the service at your house. It's the availability of being able to watch anything anywhere you want on your phone or your tablet. Like that's the best part to me.
Yeah.
Like
and look, all of those services, none of these are advertisers, by the way, but all of those services, you can do it on your phone and tablet now. What YouTube TV has that they don't, which may only be helpful for our jobs, folks who are in the audience, you tell me one way or the other, the unlimited DVR function, because I just record every college football game. So I can go back and watch every college football game. And Producer River points out they also have the quad box, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah,
so,
the quad box is nice. Although I feel like I'm having a stroke whenever I watch it. I don't really use it as much as I probably should. Because
quad box is a better second screen situation.
It's a great second screen situation. But what happens is when something interesting happens on one of the 4 games, I always click to open because I want it to be the full thing. But with social media and everything too, like it's pretty easy to stay on top of what's going on and what's interesting on a Saturday. So, but I'm so happy that because where I'm going to be tomorrow night. That's front and center for this football game here. And the only regret that I have about being in South Carolina tomorrow night is that I'm far away from this because this is going to be a really good game, and I'm happy they figured out a way to
Auburn at Baylor. BetMGM has Auburn a 2.5-point favorite on the road. Talked to somebody who's been in Auburn this week. They told me the folks on the plains are very confident as they head over to Texas. The team.
Oh, that's good to know.
So
I was on a radio hit on Thursday morning, like early, I think in Iowa, and they were talking to me about this game, and I'm like, I am dangerously high on Auburn this year, and like there should be a helpline for this feeling because I don't know if this is natural or a normal. It seems like a
Auburn problem. Call 1-800 War Eagle.
Yeah, like seems more like a perversion than it does anything. But I'm hoping for the best here. But Baylor's a very good football team too, and the thing that I'm most excited about is high quality football. It's the first game of the year where 2 teams that are nationally relevant are taking the field against each other, right? Like Nebraska's tonight, and everyone's excited to see what Nebraska is, but the opponent isn't interesting. Like the opponent for Auburn is very.
It's interesting because it's in Kansas City, and Jason Kelsey is a Cincinnati grad. There was some big news involving Jason Kelsey this week.
Like, do you buy there even being a 1% advantage for Cincinnati because of this?
No. Not one bit. Did I say Jason Kelsey? Listen, I always default to the offensive lineman, Travis Kelsey, Cincinnati grad. Jason Kelsey, also a Cincinnati grad, but Travis in the news because he got engaged this week. So,
but do you think like hype or things that are happening in or around your program and the local, like the fact that they're playing Cincinnati in Kansas City, like is a funny thing. Does any external factor to you ever have an impact on like the way you think a team is going to show up? Or do you think that most of the players on Cincinnati are like,
you also could say that Dylan Raiola's hero will be in the building, Patrick Mahomes.
Listen,
and
it's not his fault God made him look directly like Pat, okay?
That is a quote from Dylan Raiola. It is something he said this week. Yes.
Listen, I think Dylan Raiola is a handsome man, and I think that he does kind of look like Patrick Mahomes, but I think he looks a lot more like Patrick Mahomes because of his haircut and facial hair than he does because of his actual like structure of his face.
I think physically, like height, weight, they're very similar too. Like they in uniform, quite a bit alike. And obviously they were the same number. So
yeah, I mean, he also wears the same number, has the same color scheme, jumps the same way before the game, hypes up the team, and has the same like finger mannerism. Like, I mean, they do a lot of this. He does a lot of the same things that Mahomes
he's
does.
copying. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, like, I don't know. Like, I don't think that's all a coincidence. And you know what, though? I'm all for it. Like, if I were him, I would do the same thing. I'm not even talking trash. Like, I think that anything that you can do to give your fan base a Mahomes, like that looks just like him. Look at that picture. It looks like identical.
I know. So we're going to talk more about this game when Tyler Shoemaker from VSiN joins us. But we're going to talk about some coaches. And this conversation started on Wednesday when Ari texted something to me and producer River, basically saying, hey, here's a clip of Brent Venables at his press conference talking about Oklahoma's GPA. Is Oklahoma cooked? And I laughed because that is kind of how these conversations go. But it got me to thinking there's a bunch of 4th-year coaches this year that are sort of riding the razor's edge. Now, some of them have big buyouts and they're probably not in danger of getting fired, but a couple of them are in danger of getting fired. But they also could just have these big breakthroughs where then they never have to worry about that again. So the names here, Brent Venables at Oklahoma, Billy Napier at Florida, Lincoln Riley at USC, Brian Kelly at LSU. And I put this poll out and I said, which of these fourth-year coaches is more likely to have a breakthrough this year? And we've got about 20 hours left on the poll, but we've already got over 2,000 votes. And it seems to have settled into a fairly predictable pattern. And it's interesting because there's two guys that are definitely in the lead, and there's one guy that's definitely in the back. So Brian Kelly currently leading with 33% of the vote. Billy Napier at 30 is in second place. Venables in third at 23%. And Lincoln Riley bringing up the rear at 14%. And it's crazy because some of this stuff is related, obviously, because Lincoln Riley left Oklahoma. That caused Brent Venables to get hired. And Lincoln Riley's exit from Oklahoma was the subject of that quote that Ari sent me. Here is Venables during his press conference. This is what Ari sent me.
As a football program, we had a lot of issues, the first year. We had guys weren't going to class. We had a 2.2 team GPA, and a lot of guys that didn't pass drug tests, a lot. And so what comes with that? Lack of motivation, lack of synergy, lack of, again, ambition. And so we had, and there were some, broken spirits too. And guys that maybe weren't confident on what we could become. So, changing the mindset, how we thought, the thinking part of it, how we viewed ourselves, as a man thinketh, so is he, right? And so a lot of guys, we didn't have this false confidence. So it's not taking a shot at anybody, or, I'm grateful for the players that were here and helped us kind of get to this point. But the bottom line is we needed, we had to start completely over in many ways. And it's been a lot of fun too. You don't sit back and celebrate it. There's no badge of honor with it. It's getting closer to what we want, and but not where we want it to be yet.
Ari, the funniest part of this, so you sent me one of the TV stations in Oklahoma had cut that clip and tweeted it out. There was a USC fan underneath it who conveniently posted a graphic that USC put out bragging about their graduation rates, who clearly didn't understand the irony of that.
I don't know what the balance is for coaches talking about issues that they faced when they took over.
It's more like, what's the time limit on it? Like, at what point does that not matter anymore? Because Billy Napier talked a lot about that last summer. He's not talked about it at all this summer, but talked a lot about it last summer too. So
yeah, because and
Lincoln Riley talked about it a lot last summer. And I'm telling you right now, in the year of our Lord 2025, and also last year in 2024, year 3 is too late to be talking about that. You can't complain about that in year 3. That's all your fault at that point.
There has to be a balance, because I don't doubt that coaches going to places face challenges, and they should be able to acknowledge those challenges publicly because it's insightful for us. But at the same time, too, using it in a way to explain lack of progress, I think, is also bad. So I don't know what it is, but it's like Oklahoma wasn't. Maybe I'm too far away and I'm not like completely in on Oklahoma, but like Oklahoma won a lot when he got there. Like they were in the midst of winning a lot.
Yeah. Now Lincoln Riley had just taken a lot of the players, a lot of the coaches. They're really good QB1 who wound up winning the Heisman Trophy. So Oklahoma wasn't the same Oklahoma when Brent Venables got there.
Yeah, but also the way that was said kind of made me feel like that was pointing the finger at Lincoln Riley directly.
Right, which you cannot do in year 4. You can't do that. Yeah. As producer River, by the way, he's established the statute of limitations. The statute of limitations on complaining about the previous staff and what they left you is 2 years.
I still think that's a lot.
I think it's okay. But once your second year ends, your second season's over. You're no longer allowed to complain about that.
I think you get right. I think you get right when you get there and the summer after your first year, which is 1 year.
Okay. That's fine. I think that's fair. So that's actually about a year and a half. That's fair. I like that.
That would be mine. But, I know that Oklahoma has some issues, but there have been coaches who have taken over much bigger dumpster fires and been better off. So I think that at a certain point, listen, I know that Oklahoma is a prideful place and they care a lot about GPA and having a good team of good guys who go to class and represent the university in the right way. I think every fan base wants that. And the same on the other end of the coin, right? The other side, no one gives a shit. All they care about is whether or not you're winning games. And Brent Venables knows better than anybody what the expectations are. And I think it's a good segue into the question because there's actually a math formula that can answer your question.
Oh, okay. Give me it.
That I come up with while you were talking.
We're a bad at math podcast. I'm going to warn you now.
This isn't going to be scientific. This is just me trying to talk through it in a mathematical way because we're going to do some rankings here.
Okay.
And I'm going to put you on the spot, and we're probably going to agree because we've been talking about this shit all summer. But who are the best rosters 1 through 4?
It's LSU or Florida at the top.
Yep.
And then Oklahoma and USC. Oklahoma probably third, USC probably fourth.
Right. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Now, which of those 4 have the hardest schedules?
Florida and Oklahoma.
So if you do a little bit of math or whatever, average it out, LSU is your clear answer because they have one of the better rosters and they aren't getting screwed on schedule. And when you say
it's not like their schedule is easy, Ari. And we are going to their game at Clemson on Saturday, for God's sake.
I would take the total package for LSU over all 3 of those, just based on circumstance of roster and path. And I know they're playing Clemson on the road. That's a tough game, but that's not a crippling game. Oklahoma.
No, I would take their schedule over Florida's or Oklahoma's any day.
So and that's we key in on the word breakout. What does that mean? For Oklahoma to break out, Oklahoma would have to traverse the largest mountain of challenges to do that. So,
by the way, LSU plays Florida and Oklahoma, so they can.
Well, you're also talking
help
to
decide this.
Who said that Oklahoma has a shot to make the playoff, and I believe that. But I don't know if they're the most likely team in terms of the.
Well, here's the thing: if LSU makes the playoff, I will bet you that Florida and Oklahoma do not, in part because of LSU making the playoff.
Right.
Or if Florida makes the playoff, LSU does not, in part because of Florida making the playoff.
But there is a situation where 3 of these 4 teams do make the playoff because USC is completely unaffected by the other 3. So if they have a breakout year, that doesn't have any impact on them. And Clemson can still make the playoff if LSU wins on Saturday. There's a lot of it's the Florida, Oklahoma. We know between those that second tier, and I don't want to get in Tennessee trouble again with the tiers of the SEC, but that second tier of the SEC. There's a lot of cross-pollination with schedules and talent and area and stuff where it's hard for them all to be good at once. But with 12 teams, theoretically speaking, 4 or 5 SEC teams could make it. And if they do, then it's not out of the question that 3 of those teams would be, especially if the other 2 are Alabama and Georgia, which people think is a foregone conclusion, which I'm not sure is true. But from a simple math standpoint, I would take the best roster with the most manageable schedule. Now, LSU's schedule is harder than USC's, but USC, I think we both agree, has the worst roster of the 4. So right. I'm never going to say that the worst roster of the 4, no matter what the schedule is.
USC has a schedule that would allow it to be competitive and potentially make the playoff. If they have a good year, USC can make the playoff. It's not. Do you define
breakout? Is breakout and making the playoff a synonym here?
I think for what we're expecting of USC, yes. I in year 4 of Lincoln Riley, we should not be oh my God, if they have a great year, they might make the 12-team field. Like, that's not where they should be. But that ship has sailed. So now it's time for them to start figuring out how to get where they're supposed to be.
Yeah, like if USC goes 10-2 but has losses to Oregon and Notre Dame that were not even, I mean, I'm saying like 2 possession games type thing where they were never really in it. The score might not have gotten out of hand, but you could tell, much like you could sense in the Ohio State Penn State game last year, where the game was close on the scoreboard, but it wasn't very close in the competition. And they make the playoff at 10-2. Is that a breakout year?
Yes, because they lost to Maryland last year.
Yeah, it's true.
So, yes, it would be. It shouldn't be at this point. We shouldn't be considering it that way. They should be better than they are, but they're not. And so,
who's your answer?
The answer is you nailed it. It's Brian Kelly is the most likely, I would think.
And Brian Kelly probably faces the most. That's not true. Brent Venables is on this list, but do you think Brent and Billy Napier?
Brian Kelly and Lincoln Riley are not getting fired without cause because the schools can't pay their buyouts. Billy Napier or Brent Venables will be fired if it's unacceptable this year.
Let me ask you this. Do you think that the expectations at Florida, or at LSU, I should say, are higher than they are at Florida and Oklahoma?
And they should be, because they've won 3 national titles this century. The last 3 head coaches have won national titles. They have shown, like, once Nick Saban showed you the formula at LSU, they should always be up there with the Ohio States and the Georgias and the Alabamas and where Texas is right now. Like, they should be there constantly.
Yeah.
I'm not sure Florida is capable of that.
LSU is a top
given
3
its history,
right? Top 4?
It's up there. Yeah.
So, Oklahoma.
But Florida, I mean, look, Florida with the right, you've seen it with Steve Spurrier and with Urban Meyer, with the right coach, with the right combination of talent, they can be a national power too. So the question is, like, did Billy Napier's slow build that? Is he capable of governing over that?
Yeah.
Or did he get the right people but won't be able to put it all together? And that's what this year will answer for Florida.
I know one specific Steve Spurrier team that won a national title had some pretty elite walk-on talent.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, Matt McCown was amazing. This guy named Matt Kelly, Art Link, incredible players.
There's another one.
Alex Willis.
His name. Let me know if you remember him. You played him. I don't know.
There was this little know-it-all Slappy that couldn't block for shit, but I don't think he amounted to anything. So
he has a ring, though. That man does have a ring.
Yeah.
But I still haven't seen somehow.
I had to move it because we're renovating our bathroom and it was living in a drawer in the bathroom. So,
do you have a safe in your house?
Yes.
Is the ring in the safe?
No, there's a gun in the safe.
And that's it?
Mm-hmm.
You don't put because I'm thinking about getting a safe for my house. And I was trying to think of like things I would put in that safe. And I have a nice watch. My wife has a nice watch. And we have she has a few pieces of nice jewelry. But like in terms of my possessions, I was thinking like Social Security cards and passports. And then my Patrick Mahomes PSA 10 rookie card. But
that is a great time to talk about a sponsor that has rejoined us on the show. Panini is back as a sponsor. So I've got a Prism Break Julian Sayin right here. Julian Sayin, who will be starting his first game against Texas for Ohio State. I got a Prism Break DJ Lagway right here. If you go to PaniniAmerica.net, you can look at the new Ohio State box set that they've just put out. So you can get that there. Panini is all over college football this year. They've got all the best players. They're signing up teams left and right. You can buy a very cool Ohio State box set right now. So, Ari, I know this was near and dear to your heart, but PaniniAmerica.net.
I mean,
start your collection today.
You're over here showing base cards. Can I show you some actual heat? Okay.
Let's go.
This is a 2024 Donruss Optic Jaden Daniels Retro Series PSA 10 rookie card. That thing's a nuke. That's a 4-figure card right there. We have a 2020 Panini Flawless Jalen Hurts rookie gem signature. There's a sapphire in the card, and it's an on-card auto. That's a 9. We're going to cross that over to PSA, see if we can get a better grade on that. And then here, because it's a college football show and we're big on NIL, is my DJ Lagway draft Prisms auto PSA 9. We're going to cross that one too. But this is what you're looking for. You want ink on your cards. And
this is my gold standard Jaden Daniels. I pulled a trade card from a pack. It is basically a mystery rookie. It was rookie number 2, which may have correlated to draft spot because he was the second pick of the draft last year. But this came in the mail after I traded it in. Gold standard Jaden Daniels, numbered to 99.
I'm actually comping that right now with my fingers. But yeah, we gotta get you over here because I'm a big PSA guy. I like the cards, and then I grade them and put them away when they're worth something. I've got a big Mahomes card up there in that box over there. But
so that goes in your safe. That card's
worth like $7,000. So I've got to put that away. And I've had that for a while. So keep winning Super Bowls, Pat. I love it. That is a great segue, but I also think that I would put my national championship ring in my safe if I had one. I just don't have a national.
It's interesting because, back then the NCAA rules said you could only spend X number of dollars on rings. So we got a national championship ring and an SEC championship ring that year. They couldn't spend more than $300 a piece on the rings. So the coaches got real stones and that sort of thing. I don't know that a thief would be that interested.
I bet you could get over $1,000 if you put that thing on eBay, because especially if people who know who you are.
I'm a nobody though. That's the thing. Somebody who actually played.
It's a novelty because you're also a very well-known personality. So that kind of adds a little bit to it.
Yeah. The team that had Heisman Trophy winner Danny Werfel and Fred Taylor and Javon Curse, and trust me, they ain't looking for me. Ari, you know who you should be looking for? Devin Hester, all-time great, former Miami Hurricane, maybe the greatest return man in college football history. You can join him and our guy JD Piquel on Sunday in South Florida at the Starbucks Coffee Kickoff. That's right. For those of us who love college football, the fall begins the moment toe meets leather, even if it's still 90 degrees outside. For coffee lovers, fall begins the moment pumpkin returns at Starbucks. So consider this your early autumnal equinox. This week, we got football season, you got pumpkin season, and you can grab your pumpkin cream cold brew on your way to the tailgate. That's right. On Sunday, at the Starbucks on Northwest 27th Avenue, is the coffee kickoff. JD Piquel, and of course, Devin freaking Hester, best return man to ever play, will be there. Live music, custom merch, plus grab your pumpkin cream cold brew. Say that 5 times fast. I don't care what the calendar or the thermometer said. It is fall now. So grab your favorite Starbucks pumpkin beverage, hot or iced, and settle in for the greatest college football season ever.
I never asked you this. Did you ever have a live rep against Javon Curse?
Yes. Many. Can
you describe that to the?
Well, here's the thing. I didn't get the full experience because I was already writing for the school paper by the time he got moved to defensive end, which is where he did all of his damage. He was playing outside linebacker at the time, and running into Javon was like running into a brick wall. Because for those who don't remember, look up a picture of Javon Curse. His nickname was the Freak. And just imagine 17-year-old Andy, who's a 240-pound offensive lineman, walking in for his first practice, turning his head to his right down the sideline and seeing Javon Curse standing there with his shirt off and realizing, oh, I'm not even the same species as the rest of these people.
Now
I realized quickly he's not. He's the one who's an alien.
He's a freak, literally.
Everybody else was more normal than him, but it was wild. Like, Michelangelo could not have chiseled a human being that looked like Javon Curse.
Yeah, I feel like it's a safety hazard.
But when he got moved to defensive end, unblockable because he was so quick and still weighed 255, 260 pounds and just lightning fast. He was a safety in high school.
Yeah. It's no wonder he went on to have a pretty good NFL career.
Yeah, he's a great NFL career.
Right? Did he win with the Titans?
He got to the Super Bowl with the Titans. Yes, he got to the Super Bowl with Titans, I believe, as a rookie or his second year, but they lost to the Rams.
Oh,
so yeah, it's a very interesting like group of people. Like Fred Taylor, I don't think people understand how big he is compared to how fast. Like this was a 4'3" guy at his pro day, and was 6'1", 220 pounds. It's just not. These are not normal human beings.
Yeah.
So
anyway, I didn't mean to derail you, but we had a.
Oh no, I'm happy to talk about it. That was a very educational time in my life. Now I say we educate the people further because we had our pick show the other day, but that's me and Ari. We're not the best at picking games. So we thought we'd bring on someone who is one of the best at picking games, Tyler Shoemaker from VSiN, to give you your last-minute best picks for the weekend, and that includes a game that kicks off in a few hours. We are mere hours away from kickoff on Thursday night. Heck, UCF's also playing their Jacksonville State, but USF Boise State kicks off at 5:30 p.m. Eastern time on Thursday night. Like it's rolling.
Look at this.
So to get you ready for this weekend, last minute picks, the great Tyler Shoemaker, one of the excellent handicappers of the world. You can hear him on VSiN. He's Ari's favorite guy. And Tyler, you want to talk Nebraska Cincinnati, which is tonight, Thursday night, 9 p.m. So when we say last minute, we ain't kidding. Nebraska, according to BetMGM, 6.5-point favorite against Cincinnati in Kansas City. It's at Arrowhead Stadium. No guarantee that Taylor Swift and Cincinnati alum Travis Kelce will be in the building, but I'm assuming this will be T Swizzle's first college game. So does that affect the line at all?
It did not play its way into my handicap. I would understand if you wanted to go that route. Just a moral boost for Cincinnati with Kelce in the building. But no, I am on the Bearcats here. This line's kind of bounced around 6 and 7 kind of all week here. So obviously if you can grab a 7 at some point, all the better. But I still like Cincinnati plus the 6.5. My numbers are just much lower on Nebraska, I think, than the market consensus is. I bet Nebraska season win total under 7.5. I think Dylan Raiola is a fine quarterback. I did not really like what we saw from him last year. I know he was a freshman. I am allowing room that he's going to grow this year. But here in week 1, I think Cincinnati, I think this is going to be a low-scoring game too, so I would maybe lean under here as well. I think Cincinnati's going to keep it close.
I think that, we jumped right into the picks, and I want to back up just a minute, though, and say, for one, that we're not just having somebody on the show that does numbers and we think is pretty good at it. Like, I have been tailing Tyler for 3 years, and he's excellent at it. And like everybody else, there are really, really hot weeks and sometimes there are bad weeks. But I think in the aggregate, if you tail all of his plays, you're going to come out on top at the end. So I don't want there to be any false sense of if I take 20 games, because he has 24 plays out there, you're going to go 20-4. At times, it ebbs and flows. But the thing that I love about Tyler more than anything, Andy, is that in podcast form, you and I cover narrative. We talk about Dylan Raiola, we talk about Matt Rule year 3, we talk about all these different things that exist in the Nebraska atmosphere. And what Tyler does isn't about narrative. It's all data. It's all roster. It's all numbers. And as the season goes on, I believe that those numbers, and Tyler, I don't want to speak for you, become more refined because the more data you have to work with, the more precise your data can be. And that's the thing that I think is so interesting about this game specifically, Tyler. I got crucified on Monday for putting out Cincinnati in this game because everybody from a narrative standpoint thinks year 3, Matt Rule, Dane Key, Dylan Raiola is going to be a Heisman finalist, all these things. They've got a great advantageous path. You see Nebraska popping up in potential college football playoff scenarios. And I don't think that like the opener on a Thursday night on a neutral field, like that's what the numbers say in your mind. Can you like break down a little bit more how you arrive at these plays and why it separates what we think as fans and commentators and analysts from like what the actual raw numbers say?
Yeah, I mean, I talk all the time about the difference between rankings and ratings, and I think fans, because we're so used to like the AP poll era, of rankings, I think we get so caught up in like, well, so you see a spread like, okay, Nebraska's only 6.5 point favorites over Cincinnati. Where would they be ranked? Nebraska might be, by some polls, the top 25 team or top 40 team or whatever. Where's Cincinnati fall in that? But the rating, the way I define rating is it's the nuance in between the rankings. So you can have two teams that are ranked 30 spots apart, but their rating might only be 4 points different. And I think that is kind of the crux of what I do, is help get those details in between the rankings. So, you look at two brands like this and it's like, well, of course you're going to bet Nebraska minus 6.5 against Cincinnati, right? But the data says no. The nuance in between the numbers says that these teams are much closer than that.
Well, and that's the interesting part, Tyler, because I was looking at some of the advanced stats predictions for this game, and I saw a lot of them kind of fell between 3.5 and 4.5 for Nebraska. Is that what you're looking for? You're looking for the discrepancy between your number and the spread.
Yep, that's exactly right. I project Nebraska minus 3.5 here on the neutral field. So exactly like you said, Andy. So when I'm looking through games, I'm looking, okay, I've got my projections, which are done completely independently of looking at the spreads. I actually, on a weekly basis, have my numbers updated before the spreads come out. So
you're like Kirby Smart when he says we don't look at the recruiting rankings. We have our own evaluation.
Yeah, I tend to drive the speed limit, but yeah, I'm a little bit like Kirby Smart.
I got a speeding ticket in Vail last week, and I'm really upset about it. And I tried to call and pay it, and they're like, "Sorry, it's not in our system yet." I was like, "You don't want my money? Sorry, I don't mean to take it. It just doesn't make any sense." But the thing that I always come back to with Tyler's numbers, and the reason why I play them, and like, you have to give me some credit. I've never given you crap once, even when things don't go well. And the reason why is because if you had a 70% chance of winning a coin flip, how much money would you bet? I would bet thousands of dollars if I had a 75 or 70% chance at a 50% proposition, because you want to get your money on the table when you have the best of it. So if your number says 3.5 for Cincinnati or 4, and you're getting 6.5 or, buying it up to 7, if that's the type of person you are, you might not win the bet, but I feel like I have my money out onto the table in a better proposition than the numbers would indicate, which is the entire point of what we're doing here. Like, Tyler can't predict whether or not Cincinnati muffs a punt inside its own 4-yard line. And watching college football, crazy stuff like this happens all the time, right? It's an infuriating sport if you're betting on it, because crazy stuff happens every quarter of every game. But if the data says that this spread should be 3 points and I can get 7, why wouldn't I do that? That's my viewpoint on it.
Well, and Tyler, I'm curious, how hard is this to do when the rosters change as much as they do now? Because you talking about you do try to take into account transfers and new personnel, but there's no guarantee that somebody is going to put up similar numbers to where they were last year, for better or worse. So like we talk about Dane Key with Nebraska. Do we assume he's going to be what he was at Kentucky, or is it possible he's better, or is it possible he's worse?
Yeah, it's gotten harder, obviously, with the way the transfer portal has just opened up over the last 3 years or so. My process now is different than it was 5 years ago, just because 5 years ago I could really just import the recruiting rankings. I have my own like development score, which is based on what your power rating ended up relative to what your recruiting rankings were. So it gives credit to a team like Iowa or something that really develops well, as opposed to just looking at the recruiting rankings. But yeah, these last couple of years, it's been much harder. And I do in the preseason, the only time I really look at what the market's doing is in the preseason, because if I come up with my numbers and then I'm 4 games off of a season win total on a team, it makes me take a second look, and I do try to bridge that gap a little tighter with the market. But as the season goes on, that becomes less and less relevant, and it's more about what you're doing on the field. And I think that's where my numbers do give us an advantage, like Ari said, as the season goes on, because I'm weighing less and less the fact that you've got Georgia on your jersey, and more the fact of how many points per player you're getting and that sort of thing.
So these are your last minute picks. You also may decide at the last minute you want to go to a game. So the next game we're going to talk about is Alabama, Florida State in Tallahassee. It's a fairly big spread, but you think because it's a fairly big spread, it's not a tough ticket. It's actually a pretty tough ticket, but you can get tickets on Gametime. Download the app, redeem the code STAPLES for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, of course. But the way it works is you just type in Florida State football because the game's at Doak Campbell Stadium. And all of a sudden, you see all of the seats that are available. You're talking about more than $200, but here's the thing. You see that $220 ticket that I'm looking at on Gametime and the B-roll. That's the cost. There's not an extra $75 worth of fees at the end of that. They're showing you what the price will be when you want to get into that game. And so if you want to hit Florida State, Alabama, you can hit that game. If you would like to see Texas play at Ohio State in the Horseshoe, you're welcome in the stadium. Dave Portnoy might not be. You are. Just go to Gametime, download the app, redeem the code STAPLES, $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, of course. All right, let us go to Tallahassee, where Alabama will be playing Florida State. We got a little news on that game yesterday. Alabama has an injury on the defensive line. Defensive tackle Tim Keenan is out, probably out for this game. Our Brett McMurphy reported that yesterday. Tyler, how do we feel about Alabama, Florida State, and a near 2-touchdown line? It is also a total of 50.5, which we just had a defensive injury, so that comes into play.
Yeah. So my numbers on this game, I have Alabama minus 14.5. So you think, okay, well, that's just a 1-point discrepancy from the line, but 14 is a key number in college football, or at least a somewhat key number. So I would lean Alabama here. Florida State's just so hard because coming into like last year, they were rated so highly in everyone's numbers. The market, my numbers, everywhere you look, Florida State was really high, and it took forever. I don't know that my numbers ever caught up. Ari finally was like, all right, dude, I'm not betting Florida State anymore. Stop giving it to me.
I remember how I alluded to the fact that I bet on Florida State 7 times last year. You're looking at the person who's responsible for that.
It is the fault of the guy who didn't eat the dog poop. I think we know we admit that. For those, I know this has been an argument on the internet. I'm going to settle this argument right now. The dog poop curse does not transfer season to season. So
you sure
Florida State, yes. That's just the rules, man. Like Florida State, you're in the clear on that. Now, if somebody decides to have another dog poop bet and doesn't follow through, then that will affect you this season. But as long as nobody does that, I think you're fine.
Yeah, at some point on the show, we have to talk about that Barstool guy, that Ohio State fan that came up with like stakes for every game on the schedule, because I found that to be quite funny. But going back to the Florida State Alabama thing for a second, I want to make sure that Tyler is well understood, because if he's going to be on the show regularly, I want people to get it. So you look at the discrepancy in your numbers, but you also read, the betting markets, the way the line is moving, the action percentages, all these things. And like, this was not a play for you because A, the discrepancy wasn't big, but B, we're not sure of what Florida State is, but C, like, how much do you like look and see like what the sharp money's doing? And it's like, it's not, and I don't want to speak for you, but you don't put out a play just because there's a discrepancy. You also look at other key factors behind the scenes of like how the markets are reacting to this game before you decide like which ones are your best bets or which ones you want to give out, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, a lot of times, so there's what's called top-down betting, which is where you're just trying to beat the market, and you're just trying to get, if you see the market's moving one way, you just try to grab that number because you're going to get closing line value. That's a betting strategy that a lot of people employ. That's part of my strategy, but also I'm an originator because I make my own numbers, which is kind of the other way to bet. A lot of times you either have originators or you have top-down betting. I kind of blend the two where, yes, I'm going to rely on my numbers, but also if I see the market moving a certain way, that, that can put me on or off of a bet. In this case, with the total in this game, I've actually got the total projected at 45 points. So, at BetMGM, the over-under is 50.5. I also saw some sharp books moving that number down to 49.5. So I grabbed 50.5 while it stands here today on Thursday.
And betting unders is the worst possible experience is better because no one likes doing it, but Tyler seems to be quite fond of them for some reason.
Well, and it's interesting because we haven't seen it really. We don't know what Kalen DeBoer's personality is on this at Alabama. I mean, we saw him at Washington, obviously. Nick Saban was not a big run up the score on people kind of person. He'd get a lead and just kind of sit on it. So I don't know how Kalen DeBoer will handle this if Alabama jumps out to a big lead. But again, that's part of the fun of all this is we just don't know. And this game, I'm fascinated by this game just because Thomas Castellanos couldn't keep his mouth shut for the entire offseason. And, if he's right, hey, that's great. But if he's wrong, oh my God, it's potentially very ugly.
Yeah, I mean, and that would be an angle, if you don't want to take the game under because you think, well, my God, Alabama might score 50 by themselves, then you could play the Florida State under, in hopes that the Alabama suffocates Florida State, which I think, is possible. We'll see. I don't think Kalen DeBoer really is in a position to worry about people's feelings. I think, he's got to kind of prove himself there to the faithful in Tuscaloosa this year.
My favorite thing about you, Tyler, is that you don't think about any of this stuff. You just do numbers. Because I feel like when you start thinking about narrative and what will this person do in this situation, or are they going to run it up, or all those things, like you lose track of the plot, which is like the numbers are created with data. So you should use data to make your picks, not your mind. And like for me personally, like I'm on Cincinnati in real life, and I'm on Cincinnati on the show and then on 3 graphics and on Ridiculed online. I hate it. I think Nebraska is probably from a narrative standpoint, I think Nebraska is going to win by 14 or more. That's how Andy picked. I think we'd think about the game the same way, but I'm just blindly trusting that the data will bear out, and hopefully it does 60% of the time this year, but who knows? We'll see. I can't wait to watch this game. There's one more, Andy.
There is one more, and it's one we've talked about a couple times on the show already. It's an interesting scheduling situation. This is sort of how it works for Mississippi State, where you got to do these 2-for-1s. So they are going to Southern Miss. And if they were going to Southern Miss this time last year, that 13.5 point spread, we'd be like, take that all day, take Mississippi State all freaking day. But this is a different situation. Southern Miss has a new coach in Charles Huff. He just won the Sun Belt at Marshall, but he got sideways with Marshall's administration way before last season. You knew he wasn't coming back. Even though he won the league, they wouldn't bring him back. So he goes to the place that was last in the league last year. But this being the era of player movement, a healthy chunk of the Marshall roster followed him. Which, Tyler, that makes this game unbelievably interesting as Mississippi State, which also has a very revamped roster, comes down to Hattiesburg.
Yeah, this is one. Southern Miss is a team. Obviously, this is all projection because we have no real data on those players in Southern Miss uniforms. Like you said, last year at Marshall, they won the conference. Braylon Braxton, Player of the Year, the quarterback for Southern Miss. I only project this game Mississippi State -4.5. And even looking at some of the other models, around SP Plus, FPI, some of those, the average of those that I look at was only Mississippi State -10. So I really like getting 13 here, 13.5. I think some places if you shop, but I think at BetMGM it was +13. I think this is a case where you could maybe sprinkle a little bit on the Southern Miss money line, and if I'm right on Southern Miss and they're going to be as transformed from last year's abysmal team as I think they might be, they might just show up and win the game here. Again, I'm not calling for that necessarily, but if you wanted to sprinkle a little bit on a huge money line, this would probably be the game to do so. But yeah, I like Southern Miss +13 here. I will be shocked if they come out flat, especially at home against an SEC school like Mississippi State and lay an egg.
Yeah, well, this is the second person who has come onto the show, Andy, and sung the value that you could get with Southern Miss. Like Colin Wilson from the Action Network was like, hammer them to win the conference and hammer them in every win total number you can find. And it's like, it almost was like Vegas didn't catch up to what happened to their roster, which is kind of a bizarre thing to me.
It's interesting because they They usually are pretty quick on this stuff, but I don't know. When you go downstream, the programs that don't get as much attention, maybe that's what it is. Because I do think they probably caught up now, but I don't think they've done it yet. Or I don't think they did it immediately. Like as soon as you saw spring practice, what Southern Miss brought from Marshall, you got to recalibrate.
Yeah, you would think, but I mean, their season win total only being at 5.5 for most of the summer was crazy to me. I definitely bet that. I actually got it over 5.5 at, I think, plus 125 odds. So I got plus money on over 5.5 wins for them, which I think, I mean, that's probably my favorite bet that I made this summer.
This is going to be so much fun. That game, noon on Saturday in Hattiesburg. That's what it's. So Corso does his last headgear pick, and that's the game it goes to. Now everybody else is going to be watching Texas Ohio State, but
why?
Put that second screen on Mississippi State Southern Miss, ladies and gentlemen. Tyler, thank you so much, and we will talk to you again very soon.
Of course, appreciate it, guys.
That is Tyler Shoemaker, and that game in Hattiesburg. We've been talking about it for a few months, so I can't wait to see how it turns out. Now, and maybe the Mississippi State fans are right, and the Bulldogs just head down there and clobber the Eagles, but I don't know, man. This could be Southern Miss to the top.
I have 24 plays out there this week because of Tyler. If you're interested in it, these are, Andy calls them last minute. They're last minute because we're adding them onto the show at the last minute, but these are his best numbers that he's found in his data that we gave you. But he has 24 plays, and I'm like locked in on all these. So good luck, BetMGM. I hope I don't have to, sign over anything to you from personal possessions that would have gone into my safe. But this is the best time of year because you get to enjoy it, but you get to have some skin in the game, and BetMGM is where you should do it. So thanks, Tyler, and we're looking forward to having you on regularly this season.
Before we get to your questions, because we have some really good Dear Andy, Dear Ari questions, I do want to address Lee Corso's last College Game Day episode is coming up on Saturday from Columbus. Not many people have provided as much joy to college football fans around the world as Lee Corso. His enthusiasm was just incredible. And when he was coaching Indiana, who could have imagined that he would become an absolute icon in the sport? And he putting on mascot heads for decades. Not so fast, sweetheart. All right, Ari, what do we think? So there's only two choices here. The first mascot head he ever put on was Brutus Buckeye. So does he end it the way he began, or is it Hook'em? Not Bevo. Bevo is the live mascot. Hook'em is the costume mascot for Texas. So who's it going to be? Brutus or Hook'em?
He's going to pick Brutus. Because
has to, right?
I mean, I think you basically have to, because it's the first one he ever put on his head, and he was right. And secondly, you're celebrating a glorious career in television, a glorious career in general. I mean, people forget that he was a coach. And I think that what you want on your way out is to be cheered. You don't want to be booed, while you're.
He would get booed mercilessly if he goes with that one.
Maybe that's just kind of his shtick too. I don't know. I think he's going to pick Ohio State, pick the home favorite, ode to the original one. I think it makes sense. But we did talk about this before the show, and I am kind of like laughing at it. Somebody tracked Lee Corso's data for all of his headgear picks. He is 286 and 144 with a 66.5% clip of success. Now, there's two ways of looking at this. One, he's betting straight up or picking straight up. So
but these are all good games, so the spreads are not big in most of these games.
Yeah, but if a lot of them are like 1.5 point spreads, like the one that he's going to be picking on Saturday, then he gets some credit for it. But if you are watching on YouTube, there is an entire grid of all the ones that he's done, which is almost 500. And what a wonderful career, and we'll certainly be watching just because if you're like me or even Andy to a certain extent, like my childhood, was defined by watching this show going into a Saturday. Like he is synonymous with the game, and I think he should be celebrated. So, congratulations.
I hope he starts to put on the hook 'em head and he goes,
get out of here, and throws it. Yeah. Like that's what you got to do. Yeah. What a wonderful tradition. I'm also
they're not gonna bleep him on his last show. Like they're just gonna let the F-bomb fly.
And I'm also like really happy that ESPN isn't continuing the tradition, like that there's no one else doing it.
Don't need to do it anymore. You've got Pat McAfee to do wacky things, but you also have Nick Saban as the ex-coach who's going to give you analysis you really can't get anywhere else. I mean, like Saban was as good on TV as you could have possibly imagined him to be. And I can't wait to see what he looks like in year 2, because just from talking to people who work at ESPN, he preps for that show the way he prepped for games as a coach. Like he'll wear some people out backstage trying to get all the info.
The formula for being successful isn't about the activity. It's about the process. And he seems to be the type of person that is pretty loyal to that process. So good for him and good for Lee. And I'm excited to watch this.
All right. Yeah, we talked about the other pregame show a lot earlier this week. So I figured it was only fair that we talk about the one that's going to get the bigger audience. So, all right, let us move to your questions, dear Andy and dear Ari. It is mailbag time. First question comes from Chase. Chase sent me a spreadsheet. I'm not going to show you that. Probably not going to read the whole email either, but Chase does make a good point. Dear Andy and Ari, I've been listening to your podcast since the athletic days, but I've never written in. Recently, you and many other media members have spoken glowingly about Utah and their prospects for the upcoming season, citing their elite offensive line and transfer quarterback Devin Dampier. I agree that they will probably have an elite offensive line this year, but every time this is discussed, there is seemingly no mention of their passing game, which looks pretty alarming. In 2024, Utah threw for 199 receptions, 2,393 yards, and 20 TDs. That's not very good, by the way. Of that production, they only returned 2 players who caught a pass, totaling 12 receptions, 163 yards, and 0 touchdowns. In addition, they brought in 10 potential pass catchers from the portal who combined last year for 126 receptions, 1,429 yards, and 15 TDs. Also not good. If you combine returning production and their transfer production, you get 138 receptions, 1,592 yards, and 15 touchdowns. And of course, some of those players may have more opportunity with Utah in 2025 and improve those stats, but the majority of those are coming from Group of 5 programs to a new offensive system and a step up in competition. Ari, I think Chase makes a good point here. Is it possible we are overestimating Utah and what they will be? Because we do think Devin Dampier will be good on the ground. He ran for 1,100 yards last year at New Mexico. But we've said we don't know what happens with the passing game. And maybe that's an Achilles heel.
Yeah. I'd love to know who the listener roots for, because that's a lot of research. If you're not
BYU, got to be BYU.
Yeah.
I'm just guessing.
My notion of Utah, and I'm assuming that you are on the same page with me on this, is that Utah will, because one of your bold predictions was that they'll play in the Pac-12. Or God,
it's okay. It's never going to go. Statute of limitations on that has not run out yet.
Big 12 championship game, right? Was one of your bold predictions.
Yes, it was.
And I assume that you probably have them in that position as a result of them being a very great defensive team and a team that runs well, right?
Yes.
Like, I don't know if it's predicated on, looking like
if they can throw the ball all around the yard, then I probably am underestimating. I probably should say they're going to win the Big 12.
Yeah. I don't think that either of us were under the notion or the impression that they were going to air it out a lot. My hope for Utah's offense, if they, get to where they want to go, is that the pass game is opened up by the running threat from the quarterback and a good running game with running backs and a solid offensive line. And they have one of the best offensive linemen in the country, who has a wonderful, beautiful voice.
Spencer Fano.
And I do think that should help them throw the ball. If you think that they're going to look like Michigan last year, I think that that's wrong. But
yeah, I will point out
they're from 2020 or whatever year it was.
Their most productive incoming transfer receiver is Ryan Davis, who played at New Mexico last season with Devin Dampier.
Yeah.
He's not changing offenses. His offensive coordinator came over. So they came kind of as a package. So you do have that. The other guy I got a tip on a few weeks ago that I'm very curious about, and it's not because he had a huge year last year, is a guy named Larry Simmons, who's from Mississippi originally. He played for Southern Miss last year. Originally signed with Ole Miss out of high school. He had 27 catches for 421 yards last year. It's not a huge year at Ole Miss, but at Southern Miss. But Southern Miss, as we talked about with Tyler, was really bad last year. So this is a 6'1", 190-pound guy. It sounds like they're pretty excited about him too. So
yeah,
that's the thing. We'll see who we get there. Interestingly enough, that spread is now Utah UCLA is the very, very late game on Saturday night. Utah is a 5.5-point favorite. I believe that means it's moving toward UCLA because wasn't Utah a 6.5-point favorite before that?
I think it's 7 at one point, I think. Yeah, but that was a good question, and I think that stats can be concerning, but I don't know that stats tell the whole story because, like what you just said, you won't find in the numbers. So,
but that's the problem with trying to guess anything is we don't really know how somebody's going to do in a different environment because they might get better, they might get worse. It's very hard to predict.
Yep. But great question, great research. Appreciate it.
All right. Next question is our friend Steven San Antonio. If I can find Steven San Antonio's question. There it is.
Want me to read it?
I got it. Regarding Clemson, on behalf of the entire world, let me say we all love Dabo.
That made me laugh, by the way.
Yes.
On behalf of the entire world. Okay.
We love Dabo. Who doesn't? I promise you, I'm not trying to be a negative Nelly here. Based on yours and others in the media's discussion of Clemson for this upcoming season, they should be very good, maybe national title good. I don't doubt you. But it seems Dabo and Clemson have been taking a victory lap since the end of last season, saying, see, my strategy and vision for running a program still works. Andy, isn't it the system that has gotten so much easier for teams to claim success rather than Dabo's way of doing things magically working again? The bar has been lowered significantly, whereas it used to be only 4 teams could claim elite status. Now it's 12, and it's soon to be 16. Under the quote-unquote new current system and Clemson being in the ACC, they're set up nicely for the foreseeable future and should be in the playoff every year. Set me straight. Which is it? So
I've got it.
Okay, you go, Ari. Go ahead.
It's bubbling inside of me.
Go. Let it out.
Steve.
Let it out.
Well, Steve, I love you, and I'm happy you're here. Thanks for the question. I think on this show, and I speak for both of us, that we didn't celebrate Clemson's season last year. If that's Clemson's ceiling, then I think making the playoff, like you asserted, is actually not enough. I think that Clemson can say, I told you so, if they not only make the playoff, but beat teams that are similarly situated to win the national title. Because last year's Clemson, Dabo, when he comes on our show and when he talks to the media, will tell you they won the ACC and they did this and they did that. You know what else they did? They got their ass kicked to start the season by Georgia, and they got their ass kicked to end the season by Texas. In order for Dabo to take a victory lap, I think he has to win those games or be competitive in those games and show that his team could actually win a championship. So while I do agree with the fact that the bar has been lowered in college football, to be successful, you can claim playoff appearances and conference championships in a way that you probably couldn't 3 years ago as a result of the larger field. Clemson is not being judged or celebrated for making the playoff. Clemson's standard was to win national championships. They did it twice under his leadership doing it this way. And I will continue to say that Clemson has fallen off as a program if the trend of getting their ass kicked every time they play a team that uses the portal and recruits at a high level and is actually good enough to win the national championship, this still might not work. Like, I don't think that there's any victory laps happening right now from our standpoint. Like, Dabo might do it, but he's the coach. He's always going to promote his own program. But for me, the most interesting storyline about Clemson this season is whether or not his old-fashioned way will still work enough to beat the teams that we think can win the national title.
Yeah, and I'll tell you where I saw the growth, because you mentioned they lost to Georgia and they lost to Texas. The difference between the loss to Georgia and the loss to Texas is the offense was non-functional against Georgia. The offense was actually humming a little bit against Texas, which had a really good defense and was at home. But the defense schematically was just horrendous.
Yeah.
All Texas had to do was hand off to just keep scoring.
We didn't celebrate Clemson last year.
I think they fixed that with Tom Allen.
Did we celebrate them?
We celebrated a little bit, but we also explained the reasons why we think this is there's two things. One is the bar for how much talent you have to have is lowered to compete for a national title because of the system. Well, what's interesting is we said Dabo has to change because the system has changed. Dabo goes, I don't have to change. Maybe Dabo was right because Dabo was looking at what the system was going to do to everybody else. That said, and Dabo can say we used the transfer portal a couple of years ago all he wants. Dabo used it in a meaningful way this year. He got 4 players. They're all 4 going to start. They're all going to be important players. And they were in areas they needed to fill.
And here's the galaxy brain part of the discussion. If the transfer portal era would have happened, but the expansion of the playoff wouldn't have, and there were no automatic bids for winning the ACC, would he still be able to do this? Like, that's the thing. Like, the interesting thing about Clemson, and the reason why I'm in awe of what he built there, is because he won national titles and beat Bama and Ohio State on the biggest stage with the entire country watching, with a team that never recruited at that same level during a time in which your recruiting rankings told the whole story. He was the absolute exception to the rule. And I'm going to tell you my favorite stat that I've told you 5 times a year for the past 5 years, Andy. There were 3 teams in the modern era of recruiting rankings between 2000 and 2022 that won national titles without having signed a top 5 class in any of the previous 4 years. 2 of them were Clemson, and one was the Auburn Cam Newton team. So, like, that to me was impressive. But now Dabo can continue to build his teams the way he always had, but the level of which they need to be great is diminished because none of the teams that they're going to face in the playoff are going to be nearly as good as the 2018 Alabama team that they beat was. So, like, that changed. So, like, to me, you can't have it both ways. He refused to change in the transfer portal era, but the transfer portal era is also the reason why the elite level teams aren't going to exist anymore. So, like, there's kind of like a weird.
Do we need to give him some credit for seeing that coming?
Sure.
And realizing that if he stayed the course the way he's doing it, because the advantage that he feels he has, and we'll see, but we've talked about this with him. We've talked about it with regard to how Billy Napier saved his job last year, is that rosters with a bunch of guys who've played together maybe can handle adversity a little better.
Yeah. Or did he? Do you think that he discovered this, or do you think he stumbled upon it?
Could be both. It could be stumbles.
Because the thing that could
be stubbornness ended up working out in his favor.
Right. Because his teams were bad for Clemson standard for 3 or 4 years as a result of the stubbornness. So, like, he might be able to come out of the other side of the tunnel and say, hey, look, I told you so. But, you know, he wouldn't have designed his teams to not be able to compete with the best in the country on purpose. So, like, It's like that. He refused to change, but then the change impacted the sport so much that his refusal to change actually happened to work. Like, I don't know if you want.
Are we saying a broken clock is right twice a day?
Well, but I'm saying, like, is he a genius for never changing, or did him never changing lead to 3 below average Clemson teams in comparison to what they were before that? And then it happened to work out. Like, I don't know which one you think it is. I don't know if this was all part of the master plan, or if so much change occurred in such a small amount of time that actually not changing at all is beneficial. I'll let you decide that as the listener, which one you think it is.
Well, I think we need to see, like, they're going to play LSU Saturday. It'll be a very important data point.
If Clemson beats LSU 35-20, do we think that this was the master plan from the beginning? No, I don't. I think it happened to work out. But also, you get credit for it working out. Like, that's the sport is different now, and Clemson is still the only thing we care about isn't the process, it's the results. And if the process was flawed, but the result still turns into Clemson being an annual national championship contender, then who gives a shit whether it was or not?
Exactly. Next question from Christopher in Phoenix. Actually, Chris in Phoenix. Please start a counter for every time Ari says grab ass. Producer River, I think we can handle that. I think we can get a tote board going. So that is your
little icon in the bottom left. Did you just
that is your project for the weekend? We need a grab ass tote board. So,
it actually comes out a hell of a lot more when we're analyzing the games that happen, because that's when the grab ass can, like, really comes out.
Yeah,
that's one.
Perfect.
You like the Family Feud scoreboard noise?
I love it. Survey says. All right. One more. And this is from Aaron. And I cannot thank you. And if I get choked up reading this, I'm sorry. Hi, guys. I just wanted to reach out and say thanks so much for the show and the insight that y'all give every day. I've never reached out before, but I've been a daily listener since the early days y'all started together at The Athletic. My wife and I moved across Texas back to the Houston area about a month ago, and 4 days later, we got the call about our son who we're adopting. Wee baby is currently in the NICU, which is the Natal Intensive Care Unit. So there's been a ton of late nights and drives to and from home to him, about an hour apart. You guys in the show have been pretty much the one piece of consistency in my life during this time. It sounds silly, but having y'all to listen to and college football to look forward to have really helped me keep from getting too overwhelmed and have given me some normalcy in the middle of all this transition. I've gotten to listen to some episodes overnight with my son in the NICU, so we're trying to get him started early on his college football fandom. I really appreciate y'all on the show. I know it's a small thing. It's made a huge difference for me in this season and my family. This season and my family are in right now. Keep up the great work and gig 'em, Aaron in Dayton, Texas. Aaron, thank you so much and good luck. And I hope you and your son get to watch some games together. And I just thank you.
And that
means the world.
We're thinking about you, man. And it means a lot to us. It's interesting because my entire life is basically professionally rooted around taking criticism and insults from people. So it is really, really nice to hear that we have positive impacts on the silent few or majority, hopefully.
And the thing is, we know we're not changing the world here, but if we can help make your day a little better, I hope we can. I hope that's what we do. So
Doug Laborice told me this when I was young, because like I'm married to somebody who has a real job. You're married to somebody who has a real job. And there's doctors and firefighters and people who have real intensive police officers, people who put their life on the line for their work to make the world a better place. And obviously with what happened in our country on Wednesday, you can't say enough how thankful you are to the people who respond. And I always kind of felt bad about that. Like whenever people would ask me like what I do for a living, I'd always be like, oh, I talk about sports, I guess. And as grateful and as exciting as that is for me, like when you start like sitting next to a doctor or somebody who actually makes a real difference, that can be kind of self-conscious, self-driving of a self-conscious feeling. But then Doug told me this when I was really young and I forgot about it. You know that we're the people that the doctors who are helping people listen to like bring levity to their day. And to a certain extent, you are helping the people who actually do those things and go through tough times, whether it be professionally or personally, get through those. And that made me feel good. So I hope that's the case. And whenever I read and see things like this, few and far between, but they move me. And I think that we both agree that we're very thankful to each and every one of you who write in, and even to the ones who don't. And without you, we couldn't do this. And hopefully we make a small difference in your life too. So thank you for that. And it's a really nice thing to read and see going into the weekend.
Well, and it is a great weekend. This is the best weekend of the year. It's week 1. If you listen to this show the moment it dropped, guys, you're like an hour away from football. Maybe 2 hours. It's a bad at math podcast, but
depends on where you live, I guess. What if you're in Hawaii?
It's coming up now. Let's go. We'll talk to you. Actually, we'll probably talk to you after the Nebraska Cincinnati game. Who are we kidding? Ari and I can't stop.
20% chance I'm going to be drunk for that. So, we're going a buddy's birthday today that we're going to celebrate during and before the game. So I might be a little sauced up, but just that might be a feature of the show now that we're sponsored by Modelo. So let's go.
We'll talk to you soon.